best game to work on VR right now?
That's
doesn't sound like it's a killer app anyway.
No, I mean, look, I'm gonna break one of your rules.
Okay,
and
go
I'm
for
gonna
it.
say the game that I think is gonna be most impactful is the one that you have played.
Right, the Oculus Touch demo.
The Oculus Touch demo, where you are engaging with someone who is in an entirely different physical space. I think that is the sort of experience that will make people just unequivocally agree that VR is special.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, you were doing it. You were throwing a ball with somebody
Yeah.
who was in a different room from you.
It was really strange. For those who don't know, this is essentially you are a wireframe head and fists and arms, because you've got the Oculus Touch controllers as well.
Yeah.
And you were essentially standing against another wireframe head and set of arms and talking, because it's all, you've got headsets as well, and interacting and picking up items and throwing them to the other person, juggling and playing all this stuff. And what the weirdest thing was that during this whole demo, we would keep like high-fiving, right? Because high-fiving is like a really simple version of touch that we do with this other individual who I'd never actually met before. And then after the demo, he walked into the room, and the two of us, without even thinking about it, did a high five, and I was like, wait, we've actually never even been in the same room
That's
together.
really interesting.
But we've created this really crazy. We communicated even though we were never in the same room at all.
Yeah, and so I think one of the big challenges that Oculus is facing right now is it doesn't have those controllers to enable the sort of experiences that you're describing.
Right.
VR can add, not VR in general, Rift and its competitors can add things to games, but it really requires a lot more hardware to make virtual reality possible the way that people imagine it to be, which is that the total physical immersion. Vive has the advantage right now because it's shipping with those controllers.
Yeah.
They're available now. Oculus, I think we still have to wait a couple months for
Right.
those touch controllers. And something like Job Simulator for Vive, it's a cute little game, but you are really interacting with things. Like, you get the sense that, like, yeah, I'm putting my laptop in the toaster and hitting go, and I'm photocopying, like, my telephone.
Donuts.
Yeah, like whatever. Like, you actually are engaging with this stuff in a little bit of an extra sort of special way.
Yeah.
On top of just the visual immersion that VR supplies. So I don't think that there is a killer app for Rift right now. My favorite is Chronos.
Okay.
It brings back the fixed camera system that made games like Resident Evil have such great scene composition,
Yeah.
room to room. So a lot of opportunities for really great shots. And you are the camera. Where you look is where the camera looks around the room. And on top of that, it's got great gameplay. It's like really fun dungeon exploring with, the basic description is sort of Dark Souls type combat. And that game right now is the one game that I want to go back and keep playing, but it's only available in Oculus, so that's where I have to go play it.
That's interesting, because this isn't what people would consider or what they would imagine necessarily when you say, oh, this great Oculus Rift game, because essentially your head is just taking the place of one of the camera points in Resident Evil. Like, you're just looking around. What is it about that? Is there something inherent about the control and what that adds to the game, or is it just a good game that has this novel control or novel viewpoint?
Well, the viewpoint I wouldn't say is novel, though I do think I understand what you're saying. It's rare these days. It's a dying art, which I think is how I put it in one of our features. But what it really does is it allows, so even a scene like this right here, right? Where he was walking on that shelf as a really small character. If you had free range of the camera, you'd be throwing it all over the place, like trying to look at objects. Like, scenes in this game are composed in such a way to evoke certain emotions and feelings out of you. And that is really important. And so when you mix that with a little bit of added immersion that comes from the headset, it's a really great combination. Even if it doesn't dominate like what I think the game is, it's an undeniable part of it.
It's also like a big shift in perspective. I only played a little bit of Chronos, and it was quite a while ago. I was back in Germany last year. But one of the things that I sort of didn't realize about playing third-person games, because there's another one as well. What's the other third-person? The Snow...
Edge of Nowhere.
Edge of Nowhere, yeah,
which
by
is
Insomniac. Yeah.
Yes, which is another third-person game. But what I didn't really realize until I played these games was that it's like having the television in your face. So like the amount of detail, the perspective actually kind of feels more like first person, in that you feel very intimately connected to the environment, even though it's in third person.
Yes, there's definitely that sense of intimacy. It's as simple as like playing Lucky's Tale. You're this fox, you're running around the woods. At one point, you get away from this really wide, expansive environment, and you're walking through a hollow tree trunk.
Right.
And in that moment, I could feel the space around me like closing in, right? Like there was a definite sense, I don't have claustrophobia, but whatever, I could relate to that, like that kind of feeling. And And for like a regular third-person game that we all know and love, like VR can add a little bit to it, at least to bring you into the moment at hand in the game.
Resident Evil Oculus remake.
The Resident Evil team says they're working on VR.
Really?
Yeah. They started talking about that, I think, at TGS last year.
All right.
So, I mean, I would love that, but only if it's fixed camera, I think.
Umbrella Core.
Yeah, exactly right.
I'm
That's
just
not the problem.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, one of the reasons the original Resident Evil was so good, and one of the reasons the remake is still so beloved, is because this technique has a lot of value, even though it was born from a place of technical deficiency. It actually is pretty sweet sometimes.
Yeah, they sort of stumbled into it by accident while trying to fix like a believability problem.
Yeah, so I would love to see Resident Evil go back to doing that, especially, I mean, sure, VR or otherwise.
Cool. Last point on this: when is the Vive going to be officially out, and when will we have a review for that?
So I believe it starts shipping next week. Our review should be April 5th. Right now, we have not the final consumer version.
Close to though, right?
I mean, it's essentially an analog, but we can't say for certainty. We should be getting ours any day, so hopefully, no problems there. We'll at least have the hardware review up on Tuesday.
Cool.
And again, with games to follow.
How are you feeling about each or the other right now? What's your preference after spending all that time with the Rift and having a decent amount with the preview version of the Vive?
I mean, cost isn't even a factor. I mean, I really appreciate how Vive has just more options open. So that if you want to be in one of those experiences where you can manipulate objects, where you can walk around your environment, you can do a little bit of that with Rift. I think it's like a 3x3 foot space.
Right.
But with Vive, you just have so much more room to move and interact with things. So right now, my preference is Vive.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Review next week. Thank you so much, Peter Brown. Let us know what you think about the future of the virtual reels in the comment box below. Mike Mahardy, what do you think about all this? Have you had much experience using either of them?
Yeah. So I went to an Oculus Rift recently, the day before GDC started.
Okay.
And then all my demos at GDC were all Oculus or Vive.
Yeah, it seemed to be mostly VR stuff, right?
Yeah. And then PlayStation, I did a couple, at PSX, I did a few PlayStation VR things, and I'm definitely sold. I'm on board. Adrift, like I said, was better in VR. I might go back and play a few more hours. I want to play Chronos at some point, definitely, because I played about 2 hours total of that, and it really, between like its Zelda influences, almost like Dark Souls-like combat kind of, and then, a few other mechanics Pete was telling me about, and the Resident Evil camera angles.
Well, what did
Can
you
I talk about one of these mechanics? Yeah.
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 Okay, so essentially, you are sent back in time to sort of save humanity. And this portal you go through, you can only...
Chronons.
You can only enter these portals one
out.
time per year.
Okay.
And when you die, you get sent back in time. So the theory is every time you die, you gain a year. For every year you gain, you become more inherently proficient in magic, less inherently proficient with physical attacks.
Right. Okay.
So as you age, you sort of evolve as a character in more than just physical appearance. But then at the same time, that it kind of devalues that mechanic a little bit because you also gain perks for every decade you grow older. So you can
just like real life.
Just like real life, yeah. You have AARP.
You can drink now.
It's like tax brackets. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's got a really interesting death mechanic. But anyway, yeah, I wish that game was not just a VR game at the moment because I think more people really should play Chronos.
And you could release this game as not a VR game, right?
Honestly, I think that there is a chance it is coming out on PC. I'm just not 100% sure, but I know right now it's just on Rift.
All right.